Hi, I'm Kenny. When you submitted your application and waited for a longer time than usual, for example, way longer than the published processing time at the IRCC website, what will you do? You can contact the IRCC through the web form first, and you may or may not receive a material reply. Then you can make an ATI request to see the visa officer's notes. Sometimes you will see your application is pending admissibility check, but sometimes there is no material information, and your application is probably still waiting in the line to be processed. Then what can you do? In this video, I will introduce a real cases-based approach that had worked 100% for all my applications. If you are out of time and you just want to run for the solution immediately, I'm putting a link below the video that may help you. But of course, I will recommend you to stay here throughout the video to know about it better. Now let's start. First of all, I would like to confirm 2 points about this method I'm gonna talk about. The first one is, so far, all of my applications that used this method are for temporary resident program, including temporary resident visa, study permit, and work permit. I haven't had the chance to apply this method into any permanent residence application so far, and in my opinion, it may not work that well on PR application as it did on TR applications, and I will examine this with more details at the end of this video. You can jump to the end of this video to check it out, but to better understand this method, I would suggest you to stay here. The second point about this method is, although most of my applications that used this method were pending admissibility check, it is not necessarily the case. Your application doesn't have to be pending admissibility check for a quick decision. Talking about this approach, frankly speaking, I learned it first from my client. For the convenience of this video, I called him Zad. Zad came to me after he was refused twice for his study permit application, and I represented his third application. On 2023 February the 2nd, I submitted his study permit application with his offer letter for May intake, so there was less than 3 months left. It was kind of a little rushing. On February 24, Zad couldn't wait in peace, so I submitted an ATI request for him. And on March 29, we received the visa officer's notes that indicates his application passed the eligibility determination and was pending admissibility check. We did submit multiple requests through the web form with the hope that the RCIC could approve the application in time, but none of them worked for real. I also consulted our lawyer, and he told me that the only possible solution is to file a judicial review for a writ of mandamus. However, considering the sole discretion of the visa officer and the independence between the administrative power and the judicial power, he doesn't believe that we got a chance to win the judicial review until we wait at least 1 year from the day when the application was made. So I just advised Zad about this. We postponed his intake into September, and we updated the letter of admission with the IRCC in June. However, it seems that it's not possible for Zad to catch up with the upcoming September intake as well. He did quite a lot of research online and told me that he decided to file for the judicial review by himself with a mindset of giving it a try. On July 20, he submitted the judicial review application, and just after 2 weeks, we received his passport request letter, meaning his application was approved. This outcome inspired me quite a lot, but I can't be sure that this can always work out. So I just shared this news to my another client, Jack, who was also waiting for his study permit application that was pending admissibility check. And here is his timeline. On 2022 September 23rd, we submitted his application for a study permit. After 3 months, on December 23rd, we received the visa officer's notes through an ATI request showing he passed the eligibility determination and was pending admissibility check. Then we basically did nothing until the good news from that came up. And when I told Jack to give it a try, he intended to hire a lawyer for this proceeding. So I got another lawyer and received a similar reply that there is little chance to win the judicial review until at least 1 year has passed. So Jack just filed the judicial review by himself on 2023, September 7. And 1 month and 3 days later, we received the passport request letter for his study permit application on October 13. These 2 consecutive successful cases made me believe that it can't be a coincidence. So why did this method work so well for these 2 cases? I couldn't help thinking about this question and did my research. Here is my rationale. When an applicant files a judicial review for a writ of mandamus at the federal court, the Department of Justice is notified and appoints a lawyer to represent the RCIC for this lawsuit. And then this lawyer requests the RCIC, or particularly the visa officer, to submit an application record showing what happens in this application processing. And in both cases, the application was pending admissibility check. However, the visa officer couldn't provide a solid ground to justify why the application was put into admissibility check. Therefore, upon the request from the lawyer from the Department of Justice, the visa officer may receive a little pressure, and due to the lack of a solid ground to put the application into a lengthy admissibility check, the officer decided to terminate the check. Since the application has passed the eligibility determination, it was approved right away. Surely it's just my guess and I can't guarantee it's correct. So I continued advising my other clients who were in such waiting to find out if this method will work in more cases. Here came my third client, who submitted a work permit application on his own on 2022 November 20. During the time when he was waiting, he contacted the RCIC, the embassy, and even all kinds of associations of commerce, but none of them worked out. Later on, I represented a study permit application and a temporary resident visa application of his family member. Both applications went smoothly successful, which is quite much to their surprise. And after hearing the successful experience of my other 2 clients, he decided to give it a try. On November 9, he filed the judicial review. Just 1 month and 3 days later, on December 12, he received the passport request letter. So once again, this method worked great. Here comes the question. Given this approach worked so perfectly, why are the lawyers unwilling to take such case? Are these lawyers just bad or not good enough? Well, I'm not a lawyer, so I cannot answer on behalf of them. But I know one thing for sure, which is these lawyers are very professional. And to my best knowledge, they are in the top tier. One of them has collaborated with me on several cases, and every single of them was fantastically successful. But why was him unwilling to take such case? Well, my guesses are, number 1, this kind of judicial review application is actually kind of abuse to the federal court judicial review proceeding, in that the purpose of this application is not to challenge the RCIC, but kind of to stress on the visa officer for a fast decision. Number 2, in these cases, if the RCIC doesn't make the decision so soon, the leave for the judicial review would probably be denied due to the sole discretion and independence I just mentioned. And number 3 is, if I were a lawyer and not an RCIC, certainly I will focus more on the proceeding of judicial review than the visa application itself. So I totally understand that a lawyer is not willing to abuse the procedure at the federal court, and is not willing to take a case that is not likely to win. But I really don't know if my guess is the case. And if you are a lawyer and you happen to see this video, please let me know your thoughts below the video. After talking about a lawyer's standing in this matter, here comes another question. What is an RCIC's standing in this matter? Am I doing the correct thing to advise my client to file such a judicial review? And if you are an RCIC as well, you probably don't want to involve yourself into that risk. Would you? Well, here's my thoughts. First of all, I need to refer to the Code of Professional Conduct of RCIC. Let's find out. This is the Code of Professional Conduct that all RCICs must follow. And here is the Article 6, Duty of Honesty and Candor. Let's check it out. Here it says, a licensee must be honest and candid when advising the clients. And let's check it out another document. This is the interpretation guide for this code, and there is a part called Duty of Good Faith. Let's check it out. Here it says, the professional's duty to act in good faith in the client's best interest and to put the client's interest ahead of those of the professional. Given these two documents, I must work for the client's best interest, and obviously, a fast approval is one of these. Secondly, I must be honest and candid, so I believe it would be a violation to this duty when I am aware of this great solution, but I decide to withhold this information for whatever the reason is. Some people may say, well, you kind of make sense, but what about the abuse part? Are you really doing a good thing when you help your client to abuse the judicial system? Well, that is a very good question. I agree with that. This kind of judicial review application constitutes an abuse to the judicial system. However, I also agree with that the root reason for this kind of abuse is the RCIC's abuse of the admissibility check procedure. So many applications were put into admissibility check without a solid ground. Don't you think that's also a kind of abuse? In my opinion, this kind of judicial review application is kind of like a fight abuse with abuse. But don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely not saying that this is the perfect solution. It's merely a useful trick to get the best result for my client, that's all. In fact, I hope there can be an external system that can limit the RCIC's power when conducting such admissibility check to achieve a perfect balance that, on one hand, no application will be put into the admissibility check without a reasonable ground, and on the other, all the applications with a reasonable ground. For example, when the applicant is a sensitive political figure, will be put into this admissibility check, and they never surrender when challenged by such judicial review proceeding. I believe this would be the perfect solution to this issue. And obviously, this would need the effort of we many people to work together, so that maybe in the future we can make it. If you are interested in this idea and you can help, or you have a better idea to solve this issue, please do let me know. I will be very much appreciated. And here is another very important thing. As an RCIC, I am not authorized to represent my clients in any court proceeding, and I don't have the necessary knowledge to advise the client about the details, regardless of if I charge them. Therefore, I cannot answer any questions about the details of filing a judicial review, except those stipulated in the LPA. And if you need help on this matter, I'm putting a link below the video that may help you. The next case is another study permit application that used this trick to succeed. Here is the timeline. On 2024, January 23, the application was submitted. It was then pending until on July 17. The judicial review was filed. After 1 month and 3 days, the passport request letter was received. There was no surprise at all. So far, you may think that all these applications are for study permit and work permit, which normally are considered very important. So what about visit visa? What if my visit visa application is pending admissibility check, or otherwise stuck there for a long time? Can I also use this method? Here is my application for a visit visa. On 2023, November 21st, the visa application was submitted. It was for a pair of parents to visit their child and grandchildren in Canada. On 2024, January 31st, I submitted the ATIP request, and on March 1st, I received the visa officer's notes. It indicated that they have passed the eligibility determination and pending admissibility check. Then I advised the clients about this method, but they decided to wait a little longer to see how it goes. Eventually, on July 12th, they filed the judicial review, but maybe because their applications are for a visit visa, or at that time both the RCIC and the federal court were extremely busy, their applications were not approved until 4 months later. On November 20, they received the passport request letter. So far, all the cases used this trick and succeeded, no matter I represented them or not. So if you need such a fast clearance on your admissibility check or a fast approval, I'm putting a link below the video that may help you. And you may wonder that all these applications are for temporary resident program. What about the permanent residence application? Can I use this trick as well to get a fast approval for my PR application? Well, I don't have the answer at this moment yet. But my that client for the work permit application I just mentioned is currently represented by me for their PR application, and of course, their PR application once again fell under admissibility check, and they just started the judicial review proceeding for the second time. Although in my opinion, it probably would not work that well this time, because I believe that it's reasonable for PR application requires the highest level of admissibility check to safeguard this country and its people here. I will update the progress of this application below the video. You can come back from time to time to check it out. I'm Kenny. Learn my lessons on your way to Canada. See you in next video.